whenever it was mid-pregnancy, and at that 20-week mark we were going to see if it was a boy or girl. And I had this dream that I was going to have a boy, and he was going to have Michael's good looks and my blue eyes, and I just had this dream about all the girls like swooning over him and me being a mama bear. And so once we got to the doctor, I was all excited whenever the ultrasound tech told me that we were going to have a boy. But I could tell by the look on her face that there was something wrong that she wasn't telling me about. And so I had all of this joy, but in the back of my mind I knew there was something wrong, and I just needed to prepare myself for what was going to come. And so I went ahead and pushed to the back of my mind, and then we celebrated having a boy, and we knew that we were going to name him Bowen because it means small victorious one, and we just really liked that. But we wouldn't know till later on that that name had meaning behind what he was going to go through and what our family was going to go through. And so I remember I got this call from the doctor telling me that our baby had tetralogy of Fallot, and I had no idea what that was. And she told me it was a heart defect and that he was going to have surgery within the first year of his life. And I just had all these emotions and was overwhelmed, and I was at home all by myself. And so I just let it hit me, and I felt it all, and I called Michael and he came home. But then towards the end of my pregnancy, we really had just forgotten about it, and were just so joyful and ready to have our baby boy. And then once he came, he was huge, 10 pounds, 15 ounces, and I just think that's a God thing, because tetralogy babies aren't very big at all. They're usually small and have to have surgery right away. And so I feel like that's a blessing, just God giving us more time with him and to prepare our hearts for what was to come. And then so whenever Bowen was 2 weeks old, we had our 2-week checkup just to see how things were going. Our cardiologists thought that they saw something on the scans and they just wanted to be sure, and so they sent us up to St. Louis. And I feel like that's when the hard times really started, because we got up there and we didn't know what to expect, and we thought, oh, it's just tests and checkups. And then as soon as he gets out of the testing, they say he needs heart surgery right now. And I just feel like our hearts weren't prepared to hear that, and we were just in a panic mode and nervous. And then one of the other doctors up there suggested doing a heart cath, and so they did that first to see if they could get what they needed done without having surgery. And so at that point they placed 3 stents and they ballooned open his pulmonary artery just to see if that would help and prolong his time before having surgery, just so he would be strong enough. And then this ties back into whenever he was born, and he was 10 pounds, 15 ounces, and just how that's a God thing, because whenever we were up there, he lost 2.5 pounds. And so after he had the heart cath, we were cleared to go home. So we were enjoying life, just hanging out. And then in October, we went back to St. Louis for a checkup, and they found out that we had to have another heart cath because they didn't want to do the surgery. And so we had another heart cath. And so that one wasn't as bad since we knew what to expect, and it wasn't as shocking as the first one. I feel like our hearts were prepared, and we had lots of people praying for us. So we came back home, and then we enjoyed life some more. And then in January, we got a call. We talked to Dr. MG, our cardiologist, and he said that Bowen needed heart surgery within the next few weeks. And so that's whenever my mind went into a panic, and I just wasn't ready. I mean, your heart's never going to be ready for your baby to have open heart surgery. And so we were preparing just financially, emotionally, spiritually. And then it was just like one trial, one bad thing after another. We were just going through that and, just barely making it, trying to trust in God. But in the back of your mind, you have all these doubts about, why is this happening to me and to our family? And God He doesn't always go according to your plan. He has better plans for you. And it's just hard for your mind and your heart to grasp that. And so we postponed surgery until February. So during surgery, I feel like that's the hardest trial I've ever been through. I feel like all the little things were leading up to this, preparing my heart for what was coming. But in that time, there was nothing anybody could say or do to make me feel better, because your baby is about to be cut open. He's going to be connected to all these machines. His heart won't be pumping on his own, and he'll be connected to bypass, so he's not even really there. And during that time it was really hard. And we had our family surrounding us, but we were just barely making it ready for it to be over with and gone. But trusting in God during that time and praying and really just giving it all to Him is really hard. You have all these conflicting emotions of what your flesh wants to do and what your spirit wants to do. Getting the texts and the updates during the surgery was really great, but my mama's heart was ready to see Bowen after surgery, but I wasn't prepared to see him like that. We're a part of a Facebook support page for Tetralogy of Flow parents, and so we knew what to expect, but knowing what to expect and seeing your baby like that is completely different. And so once they called us back to see him, I was all braced and ready, and I thought it'd be okay. And the nurses were like, most parents, it's really difficult for them to see their babies for the first time, and it's okay to get emotional. And I was like, man, I've seen all this through, and I think I'll be okay, And then you see them, and it's just heartbreaking because, there's nothing that you can do to help them feel better. And I feel like this whole trial really just helped me rely on God, because sometimes it's just out of your power and you just have to give it to God. And that's one of the hardest things to do, because you're fighting against yourself through this whole battle, And so spending that week in the hospital was really hard, seeing him get better and thinking we'd be out in a few days, and then his lung collapsing and him having to be on more oxygen than they were expecting was hard. And doubting if your baby's going to be okay and make it, and saying, God, will I be okay if he doesn't make it? It just, you either really lean into God or you draw farther from him. And so just on the way home, I was just thanking God, it's not the plan that I had, but that he was with Bowen and that he healed him in the way that he had designed. I wanted a miraculous miracle and for Bowen not to go through any of this, but that's not what God had planned, and he has much greater plans than me. Going through this, I know, because I've connected with so many people through this, and just really been encouraged and strengthened in my faith, and been able to reach out to others. And that's all God. Well, during and after this trial, we really looked at scripture, and God sent his son to die on the cross for us. And just reading that, I was always like, thanks God, I I really appreciate, but it really had no depth to me, like no real, I don't know, personal meaning to me. But going through this and seeing Bowen go through all these hard times and like not being able to help him and just go through all this pain that I had no control over, I'm like, man, God, like, why would you send your son to die on the cross for me? Because, he's perfect and beautiful in every way, and you love him so much. And being a mom and seeing your son go through all that pain, you understand how much God really loves you and how much he wants you to be. He wants in your life. He wants to be a part of your everyday. And just, going through that, I have a whole new understanding and love for God, just going through this and understanding the sacrifice that he made for me.